Hi, this is our first unit from pre-algebra, the fourth unit, the first lesson in the fourth unit, about the coordinate plane and graphing linear equations. And you will see here we have an x-axis, the blue one, the y-axis is the red one in this drawing, and where they meet at 0, 0 is the origin. And then it separates the graph into 4 parts, also called quadrants, and they are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4 in a counterclockwise order. We'll go through more about this, and there's a page for you to fill some things in, but you will see there's lots of information here. Points are named with an ordered pair, so that's the point 4, 3. From the center, 4 to the right, so the x-coordinate is 4, and then 3 up, so the y-coordinate is 3. So 4, 3 tells us 4 to the right and 3 up. There would not usually be like those dotted lines, there would just be the dot. So here we go. Some place to fill in some things. So this is going to go back over a lot of the information you just had on those last pages. Actually, let me make this a little bit bigger before we actually start writing. You have your copy of this, so it may not be a big deal to you, but it is to me. So there are 4 quadrants on the coordinate plane, and they are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4 in a counterclockwise. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And while this is written 1, 2, 3, 4, many times you will see these written in Roman numerals. And so 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you might see them written in Roman numerals instead of our usual numbers. And so our horizontal axis is our x-axis, and it runs from left to right. And on the right half, this is like our traditional number line. There are positive numbers are on the right half, and the negative numbers are on the left. And then the y-axis runs from the top to the bottom, or we could say bottom to top, and up is positive, so positive numbers are on the top half, and negative numbers are on the bottom half. So again, this just goes over a lot of what was already on the other pages, but hopefully in a little bit more interactive way to help you remember. Remember, at any time you can pause the video, you can rewind if you need to. And the point where the two axes meet in the middle is called the origin. Like the origin story for a superhero, like the place where things begin. So 0, 0 is the origin. And then we have some places to name on the diagram, and you could probably just use the other page to do this, but let's see here. I'm going to back up, don't worry. I'm trying to get all that on one page though. There we go. Awesome. So this is referring to this axis. This is the y-axis. This is quadrant 1. I'm going to abbreviate the rest of these. Quadrant 2. quadrant 3, and of course, I'm just abbreviating all the more now, aren't I? Of course, for each one of these, it's not just this one specific place, it's anything in this entire section would be considered quadrant 4. Right in the middle, as we just talked about, is the origin, and this axis is the x-axis. Alright, so now we're going to practice doing a few points, plotting them, and giving coordinates for a point that's already plotted, and then I'll show you some examples on IXL, which is likely to be your assignment. Alright, first I'll point out that a little bit unusual to see the positive numbers written with plus signs. Normally, if it's positive, you just won't see a sign. So just remember that the first number is telling you how far to go left or right. The second number tells you up and down. So number 1 is -5, 9. So from the origin, go left 5 and up 9, which brings us to L. Number 2, +5, +7. So 5 to the right and up 7, which would be H. Number 3, +7, -7. So 7 to the right and then down 7. So 7 to the right, down 7. We are at F. Alright, so take a moment, try to do the other ones, and then, so pause, do the other ones, and I'm going to write them in, and then you can come back to check your answers. Alright, great. I have filled in the other ones. You can pause this again, and be able to check those and see if you got the same. Alright, so this next part is maybe a little tricky. I think we'll be alright. May have to make it kind of small to be able to see the graph and the points that we're graphing, so definitely smaller than I would really prefer it to be. Alright, so for Y, so looking back up there at Y would be at 8, -2. And when we write the ordered pair, use parentheses. And remember that the first number is left and right, the second number up and down. And you do not count where you start, you count how many spaces. We can also see the number 8 there. Number 10, I, is at 1, 3. 11 is P, 2, 2. Q, so 3 to the right and 5 up. Sometimes we notice the 5 first, but that's how far up it is. That's the one it corresponds with on the y-axis, so that's the second one. Alright, again I'm going to pause. You go ahead and try them, and then I will fill in. Alright, so check and see if you and I agree. If we don't, tell me the next time you see me. Alright, so in this case the points were already there. We were either finding an ordered pair, what point is there, or finding the point and then giving the ordered pair. Hey, the next page in your packet, there are some things that you can graph and give points for in the packet, but they are very hard to read because they're extremely small, and so we're going to be using IXL, at least the term that I'm creating this, and so in this case, read the question at the top, the coordinates of M. So I'll find letter M, which is down here, and remember that the x coordinate has to go first, and then the y coordinate. And even though the negative sign is kind of blending into the line, we know it's below, down from 0, so we know that those are negative. So that's what I'm going to type in each of those boxes. I can click or use tab in between, so 2, and then I can click the other box, -5. So it may ask us for coordinates. Notice that when you hit, apparently in this case about 49, so after you've done a few, they may give you things that include a decimal to the nearest 0.5. So we're only going to be half. It's not going to be like asking you to estimate any closer than that. So C, then you can see that C is halfway between -4 and -5. So -4.5, and then it is on the line, so it is up a whole number 1. Something like D or E, both numbers would have 0.5s. That's why they're not on a line at all. Be careful in your negatives. 4.5 is to the left of 4 when we're in the negatives. So think about it being halfway between the 4 and the 5. So you may be asked to enter the points. Then we do have somewhere you're plotting the point. -6, 2, so 6 to the left and 2 up. Click and submit. 3, -2, so 3 to the right, down 2. 2, 1. Right. So you're not going to get there in 4 questions. I've jumped a level a few times so that it's gone faster to show you a variety. -8, -7. Okay, so that one's pretty straightforward. It did not give me any points on the axes, but remember, if you have a 0 for the x, it's going to end up being somewhere on the y-axis because it doesn't go left and right. If you have a 0 for y, it will be on the x-axis because it would not move up and down. And then a second lesson has been assigned, and that is about the quadrants and axes. And we want to remember from what we did earlier which quadrant is which, so it may help to have those notes so that we know this is 1, 2, 3, and 4. And notice they're going to give the question using those Roman numerals. So which point is in quadrant 1 would of course be Q. And then we would just click on Q. What point is quadrant M in, or point M in? That would be quadrant 1. Which point is in quadrant 3? Remember, it's 1, 2, 3, so that would be W. Now here, the point is not there, but it's asking us which point would it be in. So you could go there like you were getting ready to graph. -2, +2 would be here, in this section. And so that would be quadrant 2. Now here we have several different ordered pairs. It may help if on your thing with the quadrants, if you write this down, you can look at each one of these points, and if it's the first one in this case, that's easy. But keep in mind that in this quadrant, they are both positive. In this quadrant, x is negative, but y is positive. Here, both x and y are negative, and here, x is positive, y is negative. Now you should be able to find which one, regardless, but if you have that written down, then you could probably make the choice pretty easily without actually finding the points on the graph. Alright, as usual, IXL lessons should be done to 80. Points that have a 0, also when we get here and we don't have a graph to look at, having written down what we just talked about would be helpful to be able to easily answer that question. If the x or y is 0, it would be on the axis instead of being in a quadrant. So quadrant 1, both numbers have to be positive. I can't force it to give me too many different kinds of questions. Remember, you can also watch this little video. Here, this is saying if x is 0, so let's think about that. I mentioned that quickly, but I haven't really talked much about it. If x is 0, no matter what the y is, if x is 0, it's somewhere on this line because it doesn't move left or right. So when x is 0, it's going to be on the y-axis. So y is greater than 0 means it's somewhere on the top half. So if x is greater than 0, remember translation here, greater than 0, this is another way to tell me that x is positive. And less than 0 tells me the y is negative. And then I can decide what quadrant. As usual, work until you hit 80. You may choose to go a little further. And most of this, I believe, is review from Math Foundations. So I don't anticipate this being a troublesome lesson, but it is important that we can plot points before we go on. Thanks a lot.